What's going on, everybody? Eric from Panola here, and we're going to take another look at Security Plus and some of the objectives that have been identified as we go through one by one together here on this channel. So what we're doing is we're taking a look at the Security Plus exam brought to you by CompTIA and one of the programs that we touch on at Panola College. Don't forget to check out panola.edu for some of the programs that we do there. We cover cybersecurity, networking, and digital forensics. But what we're doing here is taking a look objective by objective as we walk through together on Security Plus. And today we have Objective 1.1. Now, as you can see here on the screen, this objective will cover compare and contrast different types of social engineering techniques. And in our official CompTIA Security Plus study guide for exam SY0601 that we use at Panola College, we're going to be taking a look at the first part of Chapter 4. Now, this chapter covers social engineering, physical, and password attacks, but we're going to specifically be looking at social engineering and covering some of the key points for more detailed study. Now, in social engineering, there are different things called influences. Basically, how is it that we're going to be social engineering someone as we try to get the information that we're seeking out? And these influences are broken down into 7 different ways, and we're going to be covering them one by one. Are you ready? Let's go. The first one is authority. Now, this is going to be making you believe that you have to follow some sort of authority in order to give up that information. So if somebody comes up to you and says, hey, I have the authority for you to give me the information pertaining to X, you're more inclined to give them X because you believe that they are in a position of authority. And this kind of follows closely with intimidation. Now, the influence of intimidation can be summarized in one word, and that is bullying. Because if authority doesn't work, the person that's trying to do the social engineering may actually try to bully you into giving them the information that they want. But influence number 3 is consensus. And the idea behind this one is that if everyone else did it, then so should you. And the person conducting the social engineering may say something along the lines of, well, person Y gave me this information earlier today. That's why you should give me this information right now, because you would be the only one left out of not doing this. Now, please don't confuse these with the intimidation or the authority ones. These influences are broken down to individual ideas, and you will be asked about them on the Security Plus exam as separate entities. Number 4 is scarcity. The rarity, scarcity. Yes, I got it. Scarcity. But it makes it look like it's desirable because it may not be available again. It's one of those too good to be true cases. And a great example of this is that you get a spam email that says, click now before the offer expires. And that click now could lead you to something that is not supposed to be clicked on within your system or organization. Number 5 is familiarity. And this happens because the sender looks like somebody you know or trust. And it could be a fake that is looking like the person you know or trust. Now, I'm putting myself back on screen here because it wouldn't be too hard to find somebody that looks like me by putting a mop on their head and a goatee on their face. And you may believe that with a ball cap and a nice plaid shirt or flannel during the wintertime that person is me, especially if they're wearing sunglasses. Because then we fall into that, the Superman effect where people can't identify between Superman and Clark Kent because of the glasses. That's where familiarity comes in at, because somebody may come in claiming to be somebody else that you know or trust. Or they may actually be in that position that you know and trust and trying to conduct social engineering. Could be somebody that you've known for 5 years or even just 5 seconds. Which leads us into number 6 of trust. And it's kind of like familiarity, but the engineer builds trust over time for you to do something for them. So they may get to know you now and over time groom you to an acceptable standard of trust to where their request does not seem so far-fetched. Because it's easier for me to come up to you after, let's say, a year of knowing you and saying, hey, can you give me the details in accounting file so-and-so, than it is to come up onto you without knowing you saying, give me the accounting details. You don't know me, you don't trust me. But after time, that defense may fall and you give in to giving me information that you're not supposed to. And then the last influence is urgency. This makes the target feel like that they have to do this right now. It's a life or death situation. And if you don't do this right now, many people will suffer. The urgency is not overstated enough in this type of scenario. If you don't do this right now, you'll get fired. If you don't do this right now, we won't be friends. If you don't do this right now, then lots of money will be lost. that urgency adds in a little bit of panic on the target's part to make them feel like they have to do it in order to avoid all those bad and detrimental things. Now, those are the different influences, all 7 of them, that cover social engineering, but they can be applied, either one influence or multiple of those influences, to different techniques of how that information is gathered. So as we were given examples of in person or over the phone or over the email or whatever the case may be, the first one that we cover, phishing, is the overall term that attackers use when they're looking for a target. Now, phishing can either be done in person, but more commonly it's done over the digital side. And the first example of subcategory that we have for phishing is smishing. And this is phishing over SMS or text messaging. How many of us already dealt with all these random texts that we get that say your package has not been delivered yet? Please click on this link to get it fixed. That's a phishing attempt, but more specifically, smishing. Then we have vishing, starting with a V. And this is where you have phishing that happens over the telephone. So you'll get a call from a call center or somebody that you don't know. And sometimes, depending on your carrier, you may see alert, spam attempt or something like that. But if you don't, somebody just calling up saying, hey, your account's been locked. We need your credit card number in order to be able to unlock it over the phone. Now, don't do that. Nobody should be calling you up asking you for your credit card information. Then we start going down the rabbit hole with the last 2 of spear phishing and whaling. Now, these 2 on the CompTIA Security Plus exam can be confusing because spear phishing is when we're targeting a specific person, but whaling is when we're targeting a specific person of power or interest. So if you're asked a question of what type of phishing attempt is against this CEO or chief executive officer, that's whaling, because now you're looking for the big fish in the pond, hence whale. But if you're looking for a specific person of interest, let's say the IT security manager, that's spear phishing, because that's just a specific person that doesn't own or doesn't have power over that organization in that manner. Now, when we leave the phishing realm, we start going into something called website attacks. And the most common of these is the typosquatting. Now, I know what I said there, typosquatting. And the best example I can give you of that is how many times we tried to type in google.com and messed up and typed in gogle.com or ggle.com and gone to a website that wasn't Google. Well, that's typosquatting, where an attacker will register a domain that is very similar in characters to the one that you're trying to get to. And based on our either lack of knowledge of that site or bad typing skills, in my case, we'll go to that site and not think anything of it, because the site will look like the original. It'll have the Google icon, the pictures on the site, have the search bar and everything like that. But behind the scenes, the coding is done to where it captures all the different text. And how we get around this is by making sure that the SSL or TLS certificate, that little lock in the upper left-hand side of your browser, is present and associates with the site that we're on. We also have spam, which we're very well aware of this. How many of us have gotten an email from somewhere saying that you won millions of dollars? Please send in your credit card information or bank information now so we can send you all the money. This is usually done over email, but like we mentioned a while ago with smishing and vishing with the V, that it can be done over SMS or telephone. Spam primarily deals with the email access. So if you're starting to get wonky emails and your spam filter doesn't clear them out, you have to watch out for links in the email, watch out for misspelled things, and there's another one called modifying the subject. And this gets into a phrase called prepending. See, some organizations will automatically kick out spam, but let's say something makes it through and the first word you see in the subject is safe, or they do reconnaissance on your organization and know that it's another keyword. See, what we're talking about here is that spam filter for the organization. Reconnaissance plays into this because if I send out test emails to your organization that are spam, I'm going to try to see what it looks like on the back end for a good and bad email. If a good email comes in from an outside organization, you may see appended in the subject header, outside organization in brackets, and then the actual subject. Well, if I know this, I'm going to start off the email subject with outside organization in brackets and try to send that email through. Same thing with adding words like safe in all caps or cleared in all caps or something like that, hoping to trick the user into thinking that that made it through the spam filter and it's legit if it happens to end up in your inbox. But you do need to watch out. This is where the links inside the emails come into play at, because some organizations strip them out of the emails, some don't. But you always want to inspect the items, and you can right click and go to copy a link and paste it in Notepad and try to look at it like that. But more importantly, we should be reporting it to our security team within the organization. Now, there's also in-person techniques too, and these are in 3 different categories that I'll put up on the screen real quick and we'll touch on them: shoulder surfing, tailgating, and eliciting information. Keep these 3 in mind as we start to go through them, because you will see questions pertaining to these 3 areas. Now, the first one's shoulder surfing, and that's pretty self-explanatory, is where I try to be as close to you as possible without you noticing. You're working on your keyboard, you're here at the system, and I'm standing over you watching what you're typing and watching what's on the screen. Now, how can we prevent some of this stuff? Well, we have those screen protectors that are tilted in such a way to where only the user at that computer can see what's on the screen, and passerbys behind, it's blacked out like a pair of sunglasses. Or we make sure that our screens aren't visible to the rest of the office, backs to the wall type stuff, things like that. Or when we're done, we lock the system or shut it down so nobody can actually see what's going on that screen and steal information that they shouldn't have. Well, then there's tailgating. Tailgating, you might think, is shoulder surfing, but let's think we're trying to access an organization or a building that has controlled access. This might be referred to in your textbooks as man traps, the little turnstiles that you're going through, or in the fancier subways where they have the glass that goes up and down. That's to allow only one person at a time to be able to access the organization based on their access. They could have an access badge, they could use biometrics, PIN pad, whatever the case may be. But tailgating is where I try to sneak up and be as close to the person as possible to make it through that turnstile without that access being granted to myself. So it looks like only one person went through, and now I'm inside the organization after tailgating somebody else. And then good old-fashioned eliciting information is where, let's say, you're in a break area of an organization, or you're outside in the parking lot, and you're just shooting the stuff with one of the employees there. You may or may not be an employee of that organization, but you've decided just to pal it up with somebody that does work there. You've done your homework. You figured out that they run the database for accounting. You want those accounting numbers. And you just talk with them and try to get them to give up information over time to help you in your goal of being able to perform more social engineering. And you're basically having them rat on themselves and the information that they know. Now, to wrap this one up and to keep it as quick as possible, all of these different social engineering techniques, whether they be in person, online, and whichever influence of the 7 that they use, all rely on reconnaissance and or impersonation. But more importantly, reconnaissance. Because if we don't know anything about the organization that we're attacking or we're trying to social engineer, then we start off with no knowledge, and it takes us a whole long time to be able to get there. We may be arrested, we may be suspected, we may be turned in, we may be ratted out. But as a social engineering tactic, reconnaissance and impersonation comes into play, because we can confuse those that we're targeting. And I say we because I'm looking at this as a actual pen tester. So if we're trying to pen test the organization, it's more than just digital. It's also playing those folks that work there for information. And as a security tech or a security administrator, that's where you can actually prevent some of this stuff by training your folks up and knowing everything that we just covered for social engineering. Now, don't forget, we covered this and many other things in our Security Plus journey together, where I'm trying diligently to get all the objectives covered by Security Plus up here on the YouTubes. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Check out the other stuff that we have here on the channel, and check out panola.edu for courses and degree programs that are right for you in the Texas area. As always, don't be afraid to reach out. I'll see you next time. Take care.